Bangladesh, the worst country, where a mother and daughter share a husband. Can you imagine a place where a mother and her daughter share the same man, in a country where prostitution isn't just legal but also widely accepted as a profession, where the tradition of taking multiple wives continues unchecked? This isn't a fictional tale, it's the startling reality of Bangladesh. Here, the nation doesn't just contend with some of the highest child marriage rates in the world. It's also where countless women face sexual violence and are forced into marriages devoid of love. The harsh realities of forced unions and abuse are shattering the dreams of millions of young girls, turning their futures into heartbreaking nightmares. But that's only scratching the surface. Imagine a family where at least 4 generations have lived without fingerprints. How do they manage in today's digital era? Then there's the bewildering, labyrinth-like border between Bangladesh and India, where the land is divided into a patchwork of tiny enclaves, creating political and social challenges that defy easy solutions. And let's not overlook the stunning historical landmarks, cultural treasures that tell countless tales of a glorious past and the enduring legacy of time. Bangladesh is more than just a country, it's a living tapestry of contradictions and surprises, a place where every corner holds another story waiting to be uncovered. Bangladesh is a country with complex cultural practices, where conservative and controversial issues related to marriage and sexuality are deeply rooted. Problems such as mother-daughter shared marriages, polygamy, child marriage, and sexual violence continue to exist and have a profound impact on the lives of millions of women and girls. These practices are not only the result of traditional values but also stem from a lack of awareness and economic pressures, making Bangladesh one of the nations facing significant human rights challenges. This article will delve into the key issues related to marriage and sexuality in Bangladesh, exploring their origins, impact, and real-life stories from everyday life. Mother and daughter share the same man is an alarming phenomenon that exists in some small communities in rural or conservative areas of Bangladesh. It is a practice where the husband may marry or have sexual relations with both the mother and daughter. Although it is not widely known and is not a mainstream custom, it is still practiced in conservative communities where traditional social norms are strong. Communities that maintain this type of incestuous relationship may see it as a way to ensure economic security and maintain family assets. In times of economic hardship, when family assets need to be protected, the husband may act as an economic fulcrum for both mother and daughter, ensuring that assets are not divided outside the family. This has led to a peculiar phenomenon where both mother and daughter may sleep separately from the husband, but still share the same man. The relationship between mother and daughter in this situation is often very tense. Jealousy, envy, and feelings of abandonment can easily arise, especially when the husband's affections are not shared equally. A daughter often has no say in her mother's sexual relationship with her husband, which not only causes psychological trauma, but can also lead to feelings of helplessness and depression. As a child in rural Bangladesh, Orla Dalbat, 30, grew up with her stepfather, Notan. Her family members were her mother Midamoni, 51, her stepfather and husband, Notan, 42, her grandmother and several children from infants to teenagers, fathered by Notan and both of his wives. Orla describes how her mother was unable to manage the land and family after her stepfather died, and she lived with Notan on the condition that her daughter marry Notan too. I was too young to remember the wedding. I didn't know it happened. Although such arrangements are not considered incestuous or even child abuse in Mandi culture, where early marriage is the norm, she was devastated to discover she was being forced to share her mother's husband. The last thing I wanted was to marry Notan. I wanted a husband of my own. The arranged marriage became complicated as soon as she became the wife of her mother's husband. Things got more tense when Notan started sleeping with me. My mother knew it was inevitable. She pushed me into Notan's bed when I was 15 to consummate the marriage. But he soon started liking me more than her. Orla recalls how her mother once put some wild herbs in her food to make her uncomfortable. While I was sick, she took the opportunity to spend the night with Notan. Her resistance gradually weakened when she became pregnant. She is now the mother of 3 children, with Notan, a 14-year-old boy, and 2 girls aged 7 and 2. Midamoni has a 17-year-old son with Notan and an older daughter who has run away from home. A more serious problem is when both mother and daughter become pregnant by the same man around the same time. Not only is this genetically complex, it also causes great psychological stress within the family. Children born into this situation may face family identity issues and be stigmatized by the surrounding community. The tension and conflict between mother and daughter can last a lifetime, deeply affecting all family members and causing severe psychological damage. However, there is no concrete evidence or legal provision in Bangladesh that permits a mother and daughter to marry the same man. According to Islamic law Sharia and the marriage laws of Bangladesh, such a practice is illegal and not accepted by society or religion. Islamic law strictly prohibits any form of extramarital sexual relations and explicitly forbids relationships between closely related individuals, such as a mother and daughter with the same man. This is not only considered a moral violation but also a legal offense in Bangladesh, whether in urban or rural areas. Although some remote regions may have distinct customs or traditional practices, Islamic law and national laws are still applicable and regarded as the supreme authority in all areas. Therefore, information about this practice may merely be baseless rumors or exaggerated claims, with no evidence to suggest that it truly occurs. In summary, the idea of a mother and daughter being involved with the same man is neither accepted in Bangladesh nor aligns with the country's legal, moral, or religious values. Unlike mother-daughter shared marriages, polygamy, where a man marries multiple wives, is a legally accepted practice in Bangladesh, particularly within the Muslim community. According to Islamic law Sharia, a Muslim man is allowed to marry up to 4 wives, provided that he treats them fairly and adequately provides for all of them. However, polygamy in Bangladesh is not as widespread as it once was and has faced increasing restrictions due to both legal regulations and changing social attitudes. Although there is limited specific statistical data on the prevalence of polygamy in Bangladesh, some studies suggest that approximately 10 to 12% of marriages in Muslim communities in the country involve polygamy. This practice is more commonly observed in rural areas and among conservative families, where cultural and religious traditions still hold significant influence. Statistics also indicate that the rate of polygamy tends to be higher in poorer communities and in regions with limited access to education. Polygamy in Bangladesh has deep roots in the cultural and religious beliefs of Islam. According to Islamic teachings, marrying multiple wives is considered legal and permissible, especially if a man has the ability to ensure fairness and adequately care for all his wives. Islamic law Sharia allows polygamy as a way to protect women from living a life of loneliness or hardship, as well as to ensure the continuation of family lineage and the preservation of family wealth. Additionally, within the cultural and social context of some communities, a man having multiple wives is seen as a symbol of power and social status. For wealthy and influential men, marrying multiple wives is not just a measure of personal success, but also a way to strengthen their influence within the community. In conservative communities, pressure from family and society can also be a significant factor driving the practice of polygamy, especially when the first wife is unable to bear a son or meet other familial expectations. Polygamy in Bangladesh has profound and often negative impacts on women and families. For women, having to share a husband with multiple others often leads to feelings of jealousy, injustice, and distress. They have to compete for their husband's affection, attention, and resources, creating psychological tension and dissatisfaction. In poorer families, the first wife may feel neglected or unfairly treated when the husband focuses more on younger wives and new children. The competition between wives can also lead to internal conflicts and divisions within the family. Children from different marriages may feel they are not treated equally, leading to a lack of unity and rivalry among them. Moreover, the first wife often loses her influential position in the family when the husband shifts his attention to subsequent wives or sons from newer marriages. This situation causes insecurity and diminishes the power of women in family decision-making, leaving them isolated and lacking in confidence. Although Islamic law permits polygamy, Bangladeshi law has implemented strict regulations to control and limit this practice. One of the main legal requirements is that a man who wishes to marry multiple wives must obtain written consent from his current wife. He must also prove his financial ability to care for and ensure the rights of all his wives and children. What do you think about this issue? Child marriage is one of the most serious issues that Bangladesh is currently facing, with the highest rates in the world of young girls being forced into marriage at a very early age. Despite efforts to raise awareness and shift social attitudes, this problem remains widespread, affecting the lives of millions of young girls. Child marriage not only robs these girls of their childhood and future, but also traps them in a cycle of poverty and domestic violence. According to data from UNICEF, about 51% of women in Bangladesh are married before the age of 18, and 18% of them are married before turning 15. These numbers clearly illustrate the severity of child marriage in the country, placing Bangladesh among the top 10 nations with the highest rates of child marriage globally. This means that more than 1 in every 2 girls in Bangladesh is forced into marriage before reaching adulthood, losing their chance for personal development and the right to choose their own future. The primary causes of child marriage in Bangladesh stem from poverty, cultural pressure, and lack of educational opportunities. Many impoverished families view marrying off their daughters early as a way to reduce financial burdens and receive a dowry from the groom's family, making marriage a seemingly attractive option. Cultural and traditional values also play a significant role, with child marriage often seen as a means to protect family honor and avoid social disgrace. Additionally, in rural areas, limited access to education leaves young girls with few alternatives other than early marriage. Fear of losing family reputation if the daughter does not marry at a young age further increases the pressure, compelling families to arrange marriages in order to preserve their standing in the community. Rani, a 14-year-old girl living in rural Bangladesh, was forced to marry a man many times older than her. Her family, not having the financial means to support her to continue studying, chose to marry her daughter off in the hope that she could have a more stable life. Rani once dreamed of continuing her education and becoming a teacher, but her dream was extinguished when she entered a forced marriage. Not long after getting married, Rani became pregnant and faced great pressure to become a mother when her body was not yet fully developed. She had to give up all hope of a better future and live in complete dependence on her husband. Child marriage is an alarming situation in Bangladesh, causing serious consequences for the lives and futures of millions of girls. Despite efforts by governments and international organizations to prevent child marriage, the problem persists due to cultural, economic factors and lack of educational opportunities. To completely solve this problem, there needs to be a strong change in social thinking, raising awareness and strengthening educational programs for girls, giving them the opportunity to make their own decisions about their lives, without being constrained by outdated traditional values. Sexual violence and harassment are among the most serious and widespread social issues in Bangladesh, profoundly affecting the lives of women and girls across the country. This problem does not only occur within families but also extends to workplaces and public spaces, making women feel unsafe and isolated. Despite efforts to improve the situation, sexual violence remains a critical issue due to deeply ingrained societal attitudes that favor men, the lack of legal protection, and a culture of silence in response to abuse. This issue in Bangladesh is deeply rooted in the perception that men are superior to women, the lack of legal protection, and a prevailing culture of silence. The belief that women are inferior to men creates an environment where women's rights are often disregarded, allowing violent acts to occur with little to no accountability. Although there are laws intended to protect women, their enforcement is weak due to an inefficient judicial system and corruption, making it difficult for victims to seek help or justice. Furthermore, the culture of silence and social stigma prevents many women from reporting sexual violence for fear of being blamed or bringing dishonor to their families, which allows the problem to persist without resolution. A report by the International Labor Organization ILO reveals that around 80% of women working in Bangladesh's garment industry have experienced sexual harassment in the workplace. The garment industry, one of the key sectors of Bangladesh's economy, is also a hotspot for labor rights issues and abuse. Women in these factories often face harsh working conditions, exploitation, and a lack of protection from management. Many of them remain silent out of fear of losing their jobs or facing retaliation, making sexual harassment widespread and difficult to control. Sexual violence and harassment not only cause physical harm but also inflict deep psychological and emotional trauma on women. Victims of sexual violence often suffer from mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, feelings of shame, and self-blame. They may also struggle to build social relationships and lack confidence when interacting with others. In severe cases, sexual violence can lead to reproductive health problems, sexually transmitted infections, and even suicide. Sexual violence and harassment in Bangladesh is a serious issue that needs to be addressed at its roots within the legal, social, and cultural systems. Creating a safe environment for women requires concerted efforts from the government, non-governmental organizations, and communities to raise awareness, change societal attitudes towards women's rights, and strictly enforce legal regulations. Beyond the troubling issues of marriage and sexuality, Bangladesh holds many fascinating and unusual aspects that few people know about. From families with no fingerprints living together in rural villages to the complex and tangled borders between Bangladesh and India, this country is a treasure trove of unique and mysterious stories. Ancient historical monuments, peculiar customs, and rich cultural traditions also contribute to the multifaceted picture of a complex Bangladesh, where darkness and light coexist, creating a nation that is both challenging and endlessly intriguing. Imagine a map where the borders are not neatly drawn lines, but instead look like scattered puzzle pieces, interwoven in the most mysterious ways. Welcome to the strange story of the northern border between Bangladesh and India, a region where the boundaries resemble a complex jigsaw puzzle. These borders are not just simple dividing lines, they are a legacy of a turbulent historical era when the powerful Mughal emperors sought to expand their influence in Bengal more than 300 years ago. The interwoven lands, nested within each other like Russian dolls, create a tangled network that leaves people fascinated and bewildered by its complexity and mystery. The border between Bangladesh and India is one of the most intricate in the world, with numerous overlapping and interlocked territories unlike any other. Much like Russian dolls, Indian enclaves exist within Bangladesh, and Bangladeshi enclaves within India, creating a web of tiny pieces of land known as enclaves territory surrounded by another country. Thousands of people living in these areas were once trapped in a state of statelessness, unrecognized as citizens of any nation and denied access to basic services like healthcare, education, and social welfare. This situation seemed like an unsolvable puzzle for years. But in June 2015, history changed when a landmark agreement was signed between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. This diplomatic breakthrough saw both nations agree to exchange 200 enclaves, fully integrating these lands into their respective territories. The exchange not only brought geopolitical benefits but also liberated around 50,000 people from a life of uncertainty and statelessness. Did you know that this idea is not new? In fact, the land exchange agreement was first proposed back in 1974, but political upheavals caused the process to stall. After the assassination of Bangladesh's founding father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, in 1975, and the subsequent political turmoil, the agreement was forgotten for decades. It wasn't until 2015, with the involvement of the leaders of both nations, that the historic agreement was officially signed, marking a new chapter in diplomatic relations and cooperation between Bangladesh and India. This territorial exchange was not just a diplomatic milestone, it was a beacon of hope for the stateless people who had long been neglected. Spanning an area of approximately 177,000 acres, this agreement completely transformed the lives of the residents. At last, they gained citizenship and access to essential rights and social services like education, healthcare, and the right to vote. It marked the end of years of living in limbo, unrecognized and deprived of opportunities. Imagine a child born and raised in a land where they belong to no country, without identification papers, without the chance for education, or access to basic rights like other children. But now, with the land exchange agreement, those who were once trapped in statelessness have finally found a place where they truly belong. This is not just a story about borders or geography. This agreement is a prime example of successful diplomacy and international cooperation. It demonstrates that despite cultural, political, and historical differences, two nations can come together, prioritize human welfare, and resolve long-standing issues. The story of the border between Bangladesh and India is a vivid illustration of how even the most complex boundaries can be untangled through dialogue and goodwill. With each puzzle piece placed in its rightful position, it not only defined a border but also reshaped the future of thousands of people forever. This is not merely a tale of geographical change, but a narrative of hope, a new beginning for those who once lived in uncertainty and despair. Have you ever imagined what life would be like without fingerprints? How would you unlock your phone, travel, or even obtain an ID card? Welcome to the story of the Shaka family from Rahi district in northern Bangladesh, where 4 generations live together with a rare condition: no one in the family has fingerprints. Apu Shaka has hands as smooth as marble, completely devoid of fingerprints, His grandfather managed to live without much trouble, but the modern world has brought significant challenges to the family. When the Bangladeshi government began issuing ID cards to citizens in 2008, Uppyu's father, Mr. Shaka, left officials puzzled as he could not provide fingerprints. Ultimately, they had to issue him a card without biometric data in 2010. But the story didn't end there. As fingerprints became a mandatory requirement for passports and driver's licenses, the Shaka family faced numerous difficulties. Even though Uppyu passed the driving test, he could not obtain a license due to the lack of fingerprints, and he could only get a passport with a medical certificate. He always carries proof of payment receipts but still gets fined by the police, who do not understand his unique condition. The situation became even more complicated at the end of 2016, when the Bangladeshi government required all citizens to provide fingerprints for the national database, which also manages mobile phone SIM cards. This meant that Uppyu and the other male members of his family had to rely on SIM cards registered in their mother's name, as they could not purchase their own. The cause of this condition is a rare genetic mutation called dermatoglyphia, which not only leaves the Shaka family without fingerprints, but also results in dry skin and reduced sweating on their palms and soles. Regulating body temperature becomes a challenge, making activities like sports and swimming nearly impossible. They rely on ice packs and air conditioning year-round to stay cool. Dermatoglyphia is so rare that it has been nicknamed immigration delay disease, first documented in 2007, when a Swiss woman encountered difficulties at the airport due to her lack of fingerprints. With the continuous advancement of biometric technology in global identification systems, the Shaka family not only faces technical challenges, but also the risk of being excluded from the basic conveniences of modern society. Bangladesh is not only renowned for its innovative educational solutions, but also as a land that preserves cultural and historical masterpieces. A journey to Dhaka will take you to the magical sites of the LBA Fort and the Pink Palace Asan Manzil, where the beauty and elegance of classical architecture will leave you in awe. The LBA Fort, built in the 17th century by Prince Muhammad Ayam, son of Emperor Orb, stands as a living testament to the architectural and cultural development of that era. Stepping into the fort, you immediately feel the solemnity and mystery of the Grand Mosque with its 30 majestic domes standing prominently in the serene surroundings. Next to it lies a tranquil pond, reflecting the trees and the rustic beauty of the landscape. One of the highlights of the fort is the beautiful tomb of Bibi Pari, the daughter of Shan, adorned with intricate details that mesmerize visitors with the craftsmanship of the past. Another feature that visitors must not miss at the LBA Fort is the unique Turkish-style baths. These designs were not merely places of relaxation, but also showcased the artistic flair in construction and decoration, clearly reflecting the fusion of different cultures and architectural styles of that golden era. Here, you don't just see but also feel the opulence and sophistication of a bygone era. Not far from the LBA Fort, you will find the Pink Palace Asan Manzil, another cultural symbol of Bangladesh, situated near the Baganga River. Built in 1872, the Pink Palace stands out with its vibrant pink hue and magnificent architecture, creating a majestic scene right in the heart of Dhaka. It was once a center of power for the aristocracy, hosting lavish banquets and important political gatherings. Today, the Pink Palace has transformed into a public museum, showcasing artifacts and recreating the luxurious lifestyle of the upper class of that time. Stepping into the Pink Palace feels like traveling back in time, immersing yourself in the aristocratic life of the past with classic paintings, antique furniture, and luxurious items. Every architectural detail, from the intricately carved high pillars to the marble-tiled hallways, offers visitors a genuine glimpse into a glorious period of Bangladesh's history. Bangladesh is not just a destination with stunning natural landscapes, but also a place that preserves invaluable cultural heritage. Architectural wonders like the LBA Fort and the Pink Palace not only reflect the exquisite design, but also tell the story of the rise and fall of a nation rich in character. For those passionate about exploring history and culture, a visit to these destinations will be an unforgettable experience. Looking at Bangladesh, one sees a country marked by deep contradictions between tradition and modernity, between social tragedies and captivating cultural beauty. From distressing issues like mother-daughter shared marriages, child marriage, and polygamy to the persistent problems of sexual violence and harassment against women, Bangladesh emerges as a society grappling with immense challenges. Yet, alongside these struggles, The country enchants with its unique historical narratives and vibrant cultural heritage. From the intricate borders with India to architectural masterpieces like the LBA Fort and the Pink Palace. These cultural highlights stand as a testament to the resilience of the Bangladeshi people, constantly striving to find balance between tradition and progress, between the past and the future. For those with a passion for exploration, Bangladesh offers both contemplation and inspiration, a land where complex and colorful stories continually